네, 안녕하십니까. 영어 섀도잉 85일차 연습 시작해 보도록 하겠습니다. 네, 오늘은 어제와 마찬가지로 How to Talk Like a Native Speaker, Mike Green 영상 한번 보겠습니다. 먼저 자막을 끄고 아는 부분 따라해 보겠습니다.
My story starts in Moscow.
My story starts in Moscow.
I was 15
I
years
was
old.
15 years old.
My best friend and
My-
I, we were part of a
best
group of
friend and I,
Westerners
we were part of a
visiting
group
the
of
Soviet
Westerners
Union.
visiting
This
the
was
Soviet
in
Union. This was in
1987, a few
1987,
years before
a
the
few
fall
years before the
of
fall
the communist
of the
regime.
communist regime.
We were given
We were
an
given
official
an
tour guide
official tour
who was
guide
assigned to us,
who was
and the
assigned
tour
to
would
us.
start in the morning,
The
and we were
tour
checked
would start in
into
the
our
morning.
hotel rooms
We
for the
were
night.
checked into our hotel rooms
My
for the
friend
night.
said to me,
My friend said to me,
Let's go
let's go
outside and look at the
outside and
city.
look at the city.
I thought it was a
I
great
thought
idea.
It was a great idea.
Dumb idea.
Dumb idea.
So we
So,
grabbed our coats and we snuck out past security
snuck
and
out
into
past
the street.
security and into the street.
We found the
We
entrance
found
to the
the
metro.
entrance to the metro.
The Moscow Underground Transportation System is the deepest one in the world. The ride down the escalator took a full minute.
The ride down the
Once we were down there, my friend had it right to an open train, and I pulled it back. I said, wait, let's write down the name of the station so we can find our way
I put him back and said, wait, let's write down the name of the station so we can find our way back.
back. So I had a notepad, and I
had
took a
a
notepad and I
took a
wrote down the
notepad,
letters of the station.
station.
We hopped on the
We
train
hopped on
and
the train
went some
and went
train
some
hopping.
train hopping.
And that was fun
It was
because,
fun because,
well,
well,
actually it was
actually
weird.
it was
There were
weird.
a lot of
There
people,
were
they
a
probably
lot
all
of
coming
people.
home from work. And
There are people, they probably all come home from work.
they were all dressed
They
in
all
brown
dressed
and gray
in
clothes.
brown
and it
and
looked very,
gray
very
clothes.
different from what we were used to at home.
And very, very different.
But the stations
And it looked very, very different from what we were used to at home.
were lovely. There were stations
But the
with
stations were lovely. There were stations with statues,
with paintings on the wall
with
and
paintings
glass
on the wall
displays.
and
And
glass
it was really like
displays, and
museums.
It was really like museums.
We would never have
We would
expected
never
that.
have expected
Everything was
Everything
perfectly
was
clean.
perfectly clean.
Well,
Perfectly clean. Well,
what was weird though is
what
that the
was weird,
people,
though, is
nobody
that the
seemed to
people-
speak,
nobody
and
seemed to
everyone seemed to be
speak.
looking
Everyone
at us,
seemed
and
to
it
be
kind of
looking at
weirded
us. Everyone seemed to be looking at us,
us out. So after about 20,
looking at us, and it kind of weirded us out.
30 minutes,
So after about 20-30 minutes, we had
after
enough,
we had enough, and we wanted to go home.
and we wanted.
I showed
we
my
wanted
note
go home. I
to
showed my
someone,
note
and
to
they
someone,
directed
and
me
they
over there.
directed me over there.
Then over there, I showed my note to another person, and they directed us to the other way. And then a third person directed us sideways.
Directed
That
us
was a little
sideways.
confusing.
That was a little
Then I saw it
confusing.
over the
Then I
stairs,
saw
the
it over the
sign.
stairs. The
Turned
sign.
out
It
I had
turned
written
out
down the
I
Russian
had
word for
written
exit.
down the Russian word for exit.
So we headed upstairs, and we found a taxi. That was great. And,
That was great.
told the driver,
We told the
in tourist
driver,
hotel,
in tourist
and he was
hotel.
willing to take us.
He
And
was-
I remember sitting next
he
to
was willing to take us, and I remember sitting next to
the driver, handing him 50 rubles, and he looked at me and
He
he
looked
said,
at me and he said,
"Нет,
"Нет,
dollar."
dollar."
$50, that was like, I don't know, 20 times that amount or something.
20 times
That was not an option for
amount
us,
or
so
something.
we had to get out of the taxi, and he drove away,
There was not an option for us. I had to get out the taxi, and he drove away.
leaving us standing there.
Leaving us standing there.
It was a cold night,
It
and
was quite a
you know,
night. and,
everything was strange
everything
for
was
us, and we were
strange for
teenagers,
us.
and
We were teenagers.
we were pretty nervous, didn't know what to
Pretty
do.
nervous,
Well, we
didn't know
started
what to do.
walking. We
We
walked
started walking
to the end of the
We walked
block.
To the end of the block.
turned the corner,
Turned the corner.
and 200
and
yards in front of us,
200 yards in
the
front of
Interest
us,
Hotel.
The Interest Hotel.
Well, this experience affected me in two ways. The first is that anytime after this trip that I would hear anyone speak Russian, I would just
anyone
cringe.
speak Russian, I would just cringe.
And the second one is
The
that
second is
it
that
taught me the importance
It
of
taught me the
understanding
importance
the
of
local language when you're
understanding the local
traveling.
language when you're traveling.
And it actually led to me
Uh,
learning another
and
four
actually
languages
led to me
fluently over
learning
the
of-
following
learning
years.
another 4 languages fluently over the following years.
Now, before I go on, I'd like to know in the
before I go,
audience,
I'd like to
can we have a
know
little bit
in
of
the
light
audience.
maybe in the audience?
Can you have a little
just
light
like to know
maybe in the
who's
audience? I just like to know
by show of hands, who is not a native English speaker?
Who's not a native English speaker?
That must be 99%.
It must be 99%.
Anyone who doesn't
Anyone
speak
who
English,
doesn't
stand
speak
up.
English, stand up.
All right, so I
Alright.
can assume all of you have,
So I can assume all
gone
of
through
you,
the process of learning a language.
All of you have, gone through the process of learning a language.
Anybody who speaks 3 or more languages?
Anybody who speaks 3 or more languages?
Wow, that is maybe 70%.
And there
4 or more languages, anyone?
4 or more languages, anyone?
Still quite a bit.
Quite a
Anyone
bit.
speak 5 or more languages? Wow, come see me during the break.
5 or more languages. Come see me during the break.
All right, well, to me, learning a language is for me, it's like a deck of playing cards lying face down on the table. As you start learning and understanding, the cards start opening up for you.
Opening up for you.
Now, there's no standard way of classifying this, but as you learn, you reach certain milestones.
As you learn, you reach
The first one would be when about 25% of the cards are turned up, you reach like a basic level. At this
the first one will be when about 25% of the cards are turned up, you reach basic level. At this level, you have
a base vocabulary, some grammar, and you're able to have maybe very simple conversations and communicate a little bit.
And communicate a little bit.
Your study goes on
Your study
until
goes
you
on
reach this magical point of fluency, what we call being fluent in a language. And what does this mean?
Fluent in a language.
Being fluent in
What does this mean? What does this mean?
a language, it means that you've turned up
fluent in a language. It means that
more than 50% of the cards in the deck. Being fluent in a language, it means that you've turned up more than 50% of the cards in the deck.
More than 50% of the
and that is the
more than 50% of cards in the deck.
Point turned up more than 50% of the cards in the deck. And that is the
and
point
that is the
where you have
where
the language becomes part of your subconscious, so that even if you don't use it anymore for 10 years or longer,
so that even
you will
if
not
you don't
forget
use
it.
it
You
for
can
10 years
get back into it
longer,
within a very, very
you will
short
not
time.
forget it, and you can back, and you can get back into it within a very, very short time.
So this is a level where you're comfortable thinking in a language and comfortable communicating in a language. Now, some people go on and reach like a mastery level. By that time, you know classic literature in the other language, and reach like a mastery level. By that time, you know classic literature in the other language, and have maybe in-depth knowledge of specialized fields.
In the other language, and you have maybe in-depth knowledge of specialized fields.
That's often the point taken in
That's often
academia.
the point taken in academia.
For me, when I learned my first foreign language, I had a head start.
When I learned my first foreign language, I had a head start.
Because well, I was born to a German-speaking mother
mother
and an American father. Now, when I was a baby, I didn't really understand that what my parents were speaking to me were two separate languages. But by the time I was 2 years old, I figured it all out. Women speak only German. Men only speak English. Imagine the fun my parents had when they introduced me to couples.
Couples.
Well, being a bilingual was actually pretty helpful in learning my first language. Definitely helped.
It definitely helped.
If you're But it also gave me something else. It gave me two identities.
It also gave me something else.
But it also gave me something else.
But it also gave me something else.
It gave me two identities and the ability to switch between them. When you're a native speaker of more than one language, then your personality, your humor, your value system, they change as you switch languages. This can have huge advantages. I mean, some studies have shown like an increased problem-solving ability, or even a higher resistance to Alzheimer's disease. But what I'm most interested in is that it's actually given me Alzheimer's disease. But what I'm most interested in is that it's actually given me a lot.
Actually given me is that it's actually giving me
of social
a
benefits.
lot of social benefits.
When you're a native speaker,
when you're a
and then
native speaker,
you feel at home among native
then
speakers, among native speaker, or a lot of social benefits. When you're a native speaker,
when you're a native speaker,
and then you feel at home among native speakers,
and you feel at home among you feel at home among native speaker, among native speaker, you feel at home among native speaker.
In a culture, and also native speakers accept you as one
and also native speaker accept you
of theirs.
one of theirs.
Now, is this only relevant to native speakers?
native speakers?
And that's the big question. But wouldn't it be cool if a person learning a foreign language could actually develop another identity, actually enjoy the social benefits of a native speaker, enjoy the social benefits of a native speaker that go beyond communication skills? Well, that's what happened to me. I was able to do that, and I want to show you from my experience how I think this can be achieved.
I want to show you from my experience
that, and I want to show you from my experience how I think this can be achieved. So if we say this green area here is the level of the native speaker, the first thing. So if we say this green area here is the level of the native speaker,
is the level of the native speaker, is the level of the native speaker, is the level of the level.
The first thing to note is that on your way to reaching fluency, there's not really any shortcut. It's that on your way to reaching fluency, there is not really any shortcut.
There's not really any shortcut.
There are some methods that you can use, such as the Pareto principle.
There's some methods that you can use, such as Pareto principle,
where you identify 20% of the most effective material to study.
20% of most effective materials to study.
There's some apps like stuff for time-spaced learning that increase vocabulary retention. They save a little time, but in the end,
they save a little time.
Time-spaced learning that increase vocabulary retention. They save a little time, but in the end,
they save a little time. 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 Little time. Little time. They save a little time.
There's no way around working with vocabulary retention. They save a little time, but in the end, there's no way around working with the vocabulary retention. They save a little time, but in the end, there's no way around working with the material.
There's no way around working on the material. But in the end, there's no way around working with the material and practicing it. There's no way around working with material, practicing it. But in the end, there's no way around working with the material, practicing it.
Practicing it until you reach the fluency level. But the second thing to note is that going from fluency to mastery is a much slower process. Requires proportionally more effort. And that's why most people
they just stop
at fluency.
They
know how to speak English.
They know how to speak English.
Good enough. And they don't even attempt to venture on.
They don't even attempt to venture on.
Understand it.
And I can understand it.
But the good news is. To get the benefits. Of a native speaker at a native speaker
level, to get the benefits of a native speaker at a native speaker level.
You don't have to go through mastery in the academic sense.
Go through mastery in the academic sense. You don't have to reach or go through mastery in the academic sense. Go through mastery in the academic sense.
In fact, you can skip this step altogether.
You can skip this step. Skip this step. Skip this step. Skip this step. You can skip this step altogether. You can skip this step altogether.
So if you think about it,
there
are many native speakers who do not have an in-depth knowledge of special
do not have an in-depth knowledge. 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 There are many speakers. There are many native speakers do not have an in-depth knowledge. Do not have an in-depth knowledge. There are many native speakers. There are many native speakers. There are many native speakers. There are many native speakers do not have an in-depth knowledge
of fields or sophisticated vocabulary.
Fields or sophisticated vocabulary, in-depth knowledge of specialized fields. Do not have an in-depth knowledge of specialized fields, sophisticated vocabulary.
So that's not really what is required.
So that's not really what is required. So that's not really what is required. So that's not really what is required. That's not really what is required. That's not really what is required.
So how do you do it? What is required?
How do you do it? How do you do it? What is required? So how do you do it? 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 What is required? So how do you do it? What is required?
Well,
yeah.
I want to give you 3 areas to focus on when you're learning and interacting with
native speakers.
The first is
work
on eliminating your accent.
Eliminating your accent.
I'm aware I said eliminating.
I'm aware I said eliminating. I'm aware I said eliminating. I'm aware I said eliminating.
It should be at least minimizing it. This is, in my opinion, the most overlooked aspect.
This is, in my opinion, the most overlooked aspect. The most overlooked aspect. This is, in my opinion, the most overlooked aspect. Overlooked aspect. This is, in my opinion, the most overlooked aspect
of language learning today.
The most overlooked aspect of language learning today. The most overlooked aspect of language learning today.
But it's also the most important one.
The most important one. But it's also the most important one.
To reach what I call a native speaker level or speaker-like level. If you communicate without an accent, or almost without an accent, this changes how natives behave towards you unconsciously.
This changes how natives behave towards you unconsciously. This changes how natives behave towards you unconsciously.
And it also gives you an ability to adapt to a new self-image. The best way that I found, the best exercise I found, improve your pronunciation.
The best exercise I found to improve your pronunciation
is what I call the perfect sentence technique.
It is what I call perfect sentence technique.
What you do is you find a native speaker.
What you do is you find a native speaker
to help you. And you take a book in the foreign language. And you take a book in the foreign language.
and you take a book in the foreign language.
You open it at a random page.
You open it open it at a random page, and you open it at a random page, and you open it at a random page.
Read the first sentence.
And you read the first sentence. And you read the first sentence. And you read the first sentence. And you read the first sentence.
Then you ask the native speaker
Then you ask a native speaker
rate you
on
obvious accent,
slight accent,
no accent.
No accent.
Then the native speaker
Then
will
the
read
native speaker
this
will read
sentence
this
back to you.
Sentence back to you. Will read this sentence back to you. 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 Will read this sentence back to you.
You have to listen carefully.
You have to listen carefully. You have to listen carefully.
And then you repeat.
And then you
repeat this process over.
And you repeat this process
over and over until
and over.
The native speaker tells you.
Until the native speaker tells you. And repeat this process over and over until the native speaker tells you
that he can no longer hear an accent when you read.
That he can no longer hear an accent. That he can no longer hear an accent.
The sentence.
When you read the sentence. When you read the sentence.
Now I realize it can take a very long time.
I realize it can take a very long time. Now I realize it can take a very long time.
Even just to get one sentence.
Even just to get one sentence right. Even just to get one sentence right.
But I promise you,
if you
are persistent, and if
you are persistent,
patiently work on this,
and if you patiently work on this,
you will be amazed.
You'll be amazed. You'll be amazed. You'll be amazed
to your accent
by what's happened to your accent.
And if you patiently work on this, you will be amazed what happens to your accent.
You'll be amazed what happens to your accent. You'll be amazed by what happens to your accent. What happens to your accent? You'll be amazed by what happens to your accent.
The second area to focus on.
The second area to focus on.
Using verbs and expressions.
Using verbs
that locals use.
And express that the expressions that locals use.
Now we all know the situation that vocabulary can be region specific.
Vocabulary can be region specific. Now we all know the situation that vocabulary can be region specific.
Like in the US, you stand in line.
Like in the US, you use stand in line.
In the UK, you queue.
In the UK, you queue.
That's all good. But sometimes the spoken word is so different. The speech is so different from what you get in textbooks.
From what you get in textbooks.
That the books are almost useless if
you. That the books are almost useless.
Want to converse with natives.
If you want to converse with natives.
I want to give you an example. In the French language. There are words like le travail.
There are words like le travail.
Which is my work. A French person talking to his friend. Would probably say mon boulot.
A French person talking to his friend would probably say mon boulot.
Which is a completely different word. The same for the clothes, les vêtements.
The same for the clothes, vêtements. The same for the clothes, vêtements. The same for
but you will hear les fringues.
But you will hear le franc. But you will hear le franc.
Or money is l'argent.
Or money is l'argent.
But people say le fric.
But people say le fric.
le sous, or many other expressions for this.
Or many other expressions for this. Or many other expressions for this. Or many other expressions for this.
So obviously I'm only scratching the surface here.
So obviously I'm only scratching the surface here. I'm only scratching the surface here. So obviously I'm only scratching the surface here. Obviously I'm only scratching the surface here.
But here you actually have to learn all of
here you actually have to learn. But here you actually have to learn
these words and expressions.
All of these words and expressions.
One by one.
One by one.
Of course, you have to interact with natives to do that.
And of course, you have to interact with natives to do that. And of course, you have to interact with natives to do that. And of course, you have to interact with natives to do that. You have to interact with natives to do that. You have to interact with natives to do that. And of course, you have to interact with natives to do that.
But after you reach a critical mass that you're...
But after you reach a critical mass... But after you reach a critical mass... But after you reach a critical mass...
You're comfortable with?
That you are comfortable with? That you are comfortable with?
It'll actually be easier when you...
It'll actually be easier.
Encounter something new, you'll just...
When you encounter something new...
With? It'll actually be easier when you encounter something new.
It'll actually be easier when you encounter something new. It'll actually be easier when you encounter something new. It'll actually be easier when you encounter something new. It'll actually be easier when you encounter something new. It'll actually be easier when you encounter something new.
You'll just pick it up in one go, like.
You will just pick it up in one go. You will just pick it up in one go. You will just pick it up in one go. You will just pick it up in one go. In one go. In one go. 한꺼번에. You will just pick it up in one go.
But here you actually have to learn.
Here you actually have to learn
all of these words and expressions.
All of these words and expressions.
One by one.
One by
and
one.
Of course, you have to interact with natives to do that.
And of course, you have to interact with natives to do that. Of course, you have to interact with natives to do that.
But after you reach a critical mass that you are comfortable with.
But after you reach a critical mass that you are comfortable with. But after you reach a critical mass that you are comfortable with. But after you reach a critical mass that you are comfortable with. But after you reach a critical mass that you are comfortable with. But after you reach a critical mass that you're comfortable with. But after you reach a critical mass that you're comfortable with.
It'll actually be easier when you encounter something new.
It will actually be easier. It will actually be easier when you encounter something new.
Just pick it up in one go, like.
You will just pick it up in one go. Pick it up in one go. You will just pick it up in one go.
Like native speakers would.
Like native speakers will.
Who hear words that or expressions they.
Who hear words or expressions that.
Didn't know before.
They didn't know before. Who hear words or expressions that they didn't know before. Who hear words or expressions that they didn't know before. Who hear words or expressions that they didn't know before.
The third area to work on is.
The third area to work on is. The third area to work on is.
Adopting cultural traits.
Adopting cultural traits.
What do I mean by that?
What do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? What do I mean by that?
So let me ask you,
let me ask you,
this mean? This gesture mean to you?
What does this mean? What does this gesture mean to you? What does this mean? What does this gesture mean to you?
Any Italians here?
Any Italians here?
Okay, now, depending on what culture you're from.
Okay, now, depending on what culture you're from. Okay, now, depending on what culture you're from.
This could mean something rude.
This could mean something rude. This could mean something rude. This could mean something rude.
Or it could just mean
or it could just mean
something incredulous, like why did
it's something incredulous, like
you do that?
Why did you do that?
Or it could just mean something incredulous, like
incredulous.
Why did you do that?
Why did you do that? Why did you do that?
Or how could you?
How could you?
Or it could just be signaling food. Give me food.
Or could just be signaling food. Give me food. Or
how could you?
How could you?
Or it could just be signaling.
Or could just be
food. Give me
signaling food. Give me food.
Interesting. In the Middle East.
In the Middle East.
This is just a standard way of signaling. Please wait.
Of signaling. Please wait.
So these kind of traits you have to internalize, and you have
to internalize.
And sometimes they're hard to spot.
And
it takes a lot of active listening.
And it takes a lot of active listening.
I want to give you a few more examples.
I want to give you a few more examples.
They're hard to spot, and it takes a lot of active listening.
I want to give you a few more examples. So imagine I'm with three of my friends, an American. I am with three of my friends.
A German and a Frenchman.
An American, a German, and a Frenchman.
Imagine I'm with three of my friends, an American.
So imagine I am with three of my friends, an American,
a German and a Frenchman. Like we're walking, and maybe the American bumps his head.
Like we're walking, and maybe the American bumps his head.
And his initial reaction might be ouch.
And his initial reaction might be, ouch.
That's how you say it in English. But the German that gets. I don't know, elbowed in the crowd, he would say aua.
I don't know.
That's how you say it in English. But the German that gets elbowed in the crowd, he would say
elbowed in the crowd. But the German that gets elbowed in the crowd,
aua.
He would say aua.
And the French person, he might step on a nail and say.
And the French person might step on the nail and say
aye. So this, of course, in your target language. This is something you have to observe.
This is something you have to observe.
And also internalize.
And
it has to become part of you.
And it has to become part of you.
I'm with these three friends.
I'm with these three friends.
And I sit with them, and let's say.
And I sit with them, and
I serve them tea,
and let's say I serve them tea.
I ask the American, would you like a?
And I ask the American.
A biscuit with your.
Would you like a biscuit with your
tea? And if he answers in the affirmative, he might say
affirmative. You must say, uh-huh.
And I can ask the German,
I can ask the German. I can ask the German.
know what tea this is? And he'll say,
Do you know what tea this is? Do you know what tea this is? Do you know what tea this is?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, say, uh-huh.
And then, yeah, and I asked
And then,
the Frenchman, do you like
the Frenchman, do you,
this? And he'll say,
do you like this? You say.
And then, yeah, and I asked the Frenchman, do you like
I asked the Frenchman.
this? And he'll say, and then, yeah, and I asked the Frenchman, do you like this? And he'll say,
do you like this? Do you like this? Do you like this?
And then, yeah, and I asked the Frenchman, do you like this? And he'll say,
You say, do you like this? You say. And
so you notice these.
So you notice this
differences. They really require active listening.
They really require active listening. They really require active listening.
So all of these three things that I told you.
So all of these
So all of these three things that I told you.
All of these three things that I told you. So all of these three things that I told you. So all of these three things that I told you. So all of these three things. So all of these three things that I told you.
Which is pronunciation, and colloquial speech, adopting these cultural traits. They all require that you interact with natives as much as possible. Ideally, you should fully immerse yourself in the culture. Now, if you have the chance to live abroad for a while, that would be great.
That'll be great. Now, if you have the chance to live abroad for a while, that will be great.
Or maybe live among natives in your hometown.
Or maybe live among natives in your hometown. Live among natives in your hometown.
Perhaps just have a romantic relationship. Or even just spend time with. With coworkers. So romantic relationships, I could.
I could do.
A whole talk about that.
A whole talk about that. I could do a whole talk about that.
That works really well for these things. So this will be different for everybody, of course.
So this will be different from everybody, of course. So this will be different for everybody, of course. 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 This will be different for everybody, of course.
But even when you're not around natives,
you are not around natives. Even when you are not around natives,
learning must not stop.
Your learning must not stop.
Because what you can do,
you can watch
TV shows and
you can watch TV shows,
films. You can mimic the characters.
You can mimic the characters. You can
write down anything that
you
haven't heard of before.
You can write down anything that you haven't heard before.
And practice that. I also want to encourage you to.
I also want to encourage you
to learn the lyrics of songs.
I also want to encourage you to learn the lyrics of songs.
Songs are really great.
Songs are really great.
They tell stories and
because they tell stories.
They don't not only help your pronunciation,
but they not only help your pronunciation. When you sing them. But
they also, if they're emotional.
But if they are emotional,
they can anchor these expressions into your
they can anchor these expressions
active vocabulary.
Into your active vocabulary. They can anchor these expressions into your active vocabulary. They can anchor these expressions into your active vocabulary. They can anchor these expressions into your active vocabulary.
And it's like speaking all day and really.
And it's like speaking all day.
Using these expressions unconsciously.
And really using the expressions unconsciously.
It's a great way.
It's
so
a
music,
great way.
definitely.
So music, definitely.
The other thing you need to.
네, 오늘 여기까지 하겠습니다. 네, 감사합니다.